Yes, those who have come and joined now, let me remind you, we have moved into the block 2, which comprises of 3 units, that is unit 6. We are going to discuss about agribusiness policies. Unit 7, marketing and pricing policies. Unit 8, trade related policies. So let's quickly get into the agribusiness policies first of all. So everybody should know, we all should know that, is there any difference between the concept called as agribusiness and agri policies? Yes, it should be discussion one. Kindly, interact with me so that whenever I'm asking questions in the first session, I can see that very good response was there from the participants. Few participated well, and I would expect the same now also. So let me ask you one another question. Like, do we have difference between agribusiness and agriculture?
Yes, yes, definitely. Madam.
Yes, we have already discussed in the first session as well, right?
Yes,
So, agribusiness, agriculture. So, they are separately taken it, where agriculture only restricts to the input sector where you are going to produce the products through harvesting. But agribusiness is taking that into next level. That is, you are taking the products to the market level, and then you are moving with the rest of the things. I can see that students, participants are coming back to back. This is where we have to again, switch over our tab and then give permission for admitting the participants. If all of us there on time, then we would not be disturbed in between. I hope now there are no newcomers. Okay, let me again quickly get back to the things. Yes, so when we are talking about agribusiness and agriculture is restricted to production, and agribusiness is adding something to produced products, like you are taking up with inputs, moving on to credit, marketing the agricultural produce, then giving some value or value adding value something to that by through processes, transportation and storing it, packing it, distribution, and this all things aggregately together is called as agribusiness. Now, a government of India, or any, for that matter, any country, they have to set up the policies related to this agribusiness, like from where, what, when, everything. For every question, they should give the answer. Otherwise, what happens? Many of them will be confusion. Like, some will be starting up with their own view and perspectives, and others may include the government policies and end up with something else. So usually the farmers will have this confusion where to approach, when to approach, which government policy is there to support. So very important that there becomes the significance to know about agribusiness policies. That's where we are going to tap today. So before knowing about more about that, we have to first of all know the linkage between agriculture and agribusiness. I have shown in the screen related to backward linkage and backward linkage again for agricultural production. So first thing is agricultural inputs for agricultural production. Left hand side of my screen, you can see that backward linkage for agricultural production is agricultural inputs and the labor which is used to harvest or bring out the inputs to the final product. Agricultural credits, which is in financial terms, which is utilized in order to bring the final products. Then you will complete the agricultural production. Again, further, it is linked with retail chains, agricultural processing, agricultural marketing, agricultural exports. Once the agricultural production is done, then they have to take up that. That should be forward linkage, that is backward linkage in the material itself. So you can just correct that. You can rewrite on that in the IGNU material. It's a forward linkage. So after production of agricultural produce, what you are going to supposed to do, you have to take that either for retailing or for wholesaling. You can choose retail chains, or you can go with the if you want to go for retail chains also, you have to go through wholesale chains. That's why they have given the entire final linkage. And then agricultural processing, so through processing, like where you have to take up, whether which chain of distribution you're following. So that one, packing, everything. Like agricultural marketing, where you are selling your product finally. Then these are all if it comes within the country. The last level is agricultural exports, that is globally you are sending the products. So if there is a demand for your production of agriculture. So this is the linkage between agriculture and agribusiness. I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Moving on to the role of government policies. Government policies, how does it play a very important role, a significant role? There is a huge significant role which is played by the government policies. If government policies were not there, think that in any of the sector, if the government policies are not there, what would have been happened? For example, in the last session, we were discussing about corporate governance. I told you that different committees are there to set up different policies so that the corporate people can follow. If those governance or rules and regulations were not there, what would have happened? Yes, anybody? What happens when regulatory body doesn't come up with policies? Anybody in the group? 20 are there almost.
Then trade will be not properly performed.
Yes, correct.
Monopoly of some one to two family or support will be dominated.
Very good, sir. That's a great
Corruption will
one.
come. Corruption will enter into.
Correct. Yes.
There will be a fluctuation in prices and middlemen can exist.
Yes.
Correct.
Middlemen don't dominate, so that the farmers will not get the actual price of the produce.
Excellent. Excellent. So nicely you are coming up with your points. Added to that, excellently driven with the points. Added to that, we can say that once the policies are not there, it will be completely misleaded, and total the purpose of bringing that sector into the market will not serve it at all, because anything which is brought into the system, a government system, it should finally give some contribution to economic development. Correct. So, if policies are not there, nothing would be like to trace what is happening behind, what is the contribution which is made to that particular sector or economic development, how the things are flowing, and all the points which you have given added to that. Okay, so these are all very important. Like here in this picture, what I'm showing here on my screen, role of government policy, how it will be affected overall we have given, like existing situation, if policies are not there properly, if policies are not executed, if policies are not taken into consideration, what happens? That shows the existing situation. You can see the arrow mark. When existing situation without adoption of proper policies, it leads to inefficiency of anything what you deal with, like for example resource allocation or production or usage of resources, anything for that matter. Then you can see unequal distribution of benefits, as few have pointed that monopoly will exist, single sellers will rule the market, and unethical things will go, and corruption will increase. So all those things are points which will equal to unequal distribution of benefits, right? And obviously, the other things here, left arrows showing high wastage. So you will not be knowing where to control, what to control, how much to control, and which, when wastage is high, you definitely end up with low income, right? Because the cost what you are spending will be high. When wastage is there, you have to again and again purchase. When you are purchasing again and again, the expenses are high. When the expenses are high, obviously whatever you have earned, that will reduce into low income, and more transaction cost will be incurred in dealing with all these things. As I said, more and more to be purchased, so transaction cost will be high. So these are all the drawbacks when you don't have the government policies onto the track if the policy action is implemented. So again, the right side arrow of the picture shows that desirable situation will happen, and when desirable situation is there, efficient work will be resulted in form of resource allocation or in form of production, anything for that matter. More equal distribution of benefits are there. Vice versa, whatever you said, the points like monopoly will be curbed, and each and everyone will have a rights to participate in the market. It is not in one single hand what is going on. Each individual person can take the advantage of the schemes which is given by the government. So more equal distribution of benefits will be there, and if that is the case, you can see the right and hand side arrow marks. What this show is less wastage, obviously. When less wastage is there, so your income, your cost will be reduced, and loss if cost is reduced, less transaction cost will be there, and when the cost and the transaction cost is less, you would result with higher income. So this is the direct and indirect effects of government policies. If they are not there, what happens? If they are there, into the policy action, what happens? So I think this picture talks about everything, right? I hope you got that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it shows about significance of government policy as well as the need for government policy. Okay, if in examination they give you anything for that matter, like if they are asking for role, explain the role of government policy, or if they ask for need for government policy, if they ask for significance of government policy, you can go with this. And better to always go, if you are writing an answer, if it is having any chart or any flow chart or any structure, you please incorporate that and implement that. Draw that chart in the examination with your answer, because that carries more weightage. Evaluator will see that you are into the topic in depth and you are writing it, and analysis is in depth. So the chances of getting high marks is more. Okay, I hope you'll follow that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next we'll move on to agricultural policies and agricultural agribusiness policies. So two things are there for that. So support to domestic companies will be there. Domestic companies, whoever are dealing with agricultural policies, can get into agri business, and even by following agri business, they will be having support. So both domestic companies and international companies can be benefited with agricultural and agribusiness policies. That is what related to both the policies. Now, dimensions of agribusiness policies, how much it is spread over. It has been like setting up, the government has not recently come up with all these policies. It has been ever since independence, it has come up with many policies. So when initially it came up with the policies for private sectors, the private sectors were not completely confident enough to invest in the agribusiness companies. Why? Because they were hesitant to invest in, because of the risk, high risk, and less support from the government. But later on, they thought they were being realized that the government of India has set up many other policies which will support them, and they should be no more hesitant to invest in the agribusiness. Now, for example, here I have listed few. That is National Seeds Corporation, which has been set up in 1963. See, look at the years. It is not the new one. It's been very long back. They have come up with these type of institutional setups or supporting setups, where people are not aware and they are not utilizing in the right time at the right point. Next is Fertilizer Corporation of India, 1961, State Farms Corporation of India, 1969. These things have been set up. See, just observe from the seeds point of view, that is the input, then fertilizer, then again to the marketing, State Farms Corporation. Till that, we have policies. So each individual policy will talk or protect or benefit the farmers if they follow these measures which have been given by or recommendations given by these policies. So out of that, retention price scheme for fertilizer companies are there, and based on the era of liberalization, privatization, and globalization, which we experienced during the period of 1991, where we come across with more setup of multinational companies, and multinational companies during those days also started viewing this agriculture as one of the business sector. So during that stage also, that is the era of liberalization, many policies came up. Research and development investments have also been taken up. R&D, regularly they are investing on the research of how investments can be made in this sector, that is agribusiness sector. And as we have discussed in the first session about contract farming and private markets. So these are the dimensions, different dimensions where agriculture, agribusiness policies have been spread out. Now, conflicts in implementation of agribusiness policies. What do you mean by this? Conflicts means what? When I talk about this topic, what does it mean? Yes, anybody? What does it mean? Conflicts in implementation of agribusiness. So whenever you are implementing your policies, what I said, like for example, Seeds Corporation of India or many other policies, which Fertilizers Corporation of India, we have that set up, right? So in that case, completely implementation is not possible. Why? I think few have not unmuted your mics. Kindly check your mics. Kindly unmuted. Okay, thank you very much. Yes. So conflicts here means many hurdles or many drawbacks or many challenges which you face while implementation of your policies, that is agribusiness policies. What are those? Earlier, they thought that government of India or the policy makers thought that they failed in implementation of regulations, not knowing the truth that regulation was not the only problem, but the competition was the real reason. And they later realized, the government of India later realized that the competition was only the factor and not only the regulation, which was the factor for the failure of regulation. And competition will most of the cases benefit the farmers if they are aware of that, not the regulation. That is what they realize, that is failure of regulation, because government of India set up the regulation based on regulation point of view, not the competition based point of view. That's where they started getting conflicted. Next, apprehension of exploitation in private markets. That is, once the policy is implemented, the farmers came up with many complaints of exploiting this policies, and they have been misused in the private markets. Though the regulation have been set up, but still exploitation was more in the private markets by taking up these policies. So it is always seen, it is witnessed in our Indian system that though we have, you can see the Indian constitution, we have a big, very big Indian constitution with a lot of policies. But still, you can see that the policies implementation is not properly implemented 100%. Why? Because we have alternatives always. We have like new technology has been introduced. Whatever the confidentiality of data to be maintained, whatever the apps is introduced, but the hackers are always there. That's the best example, right? So hackers are always there. They update themselves. Whatever the complicated software it comes, the hackers will learn first and they will go according to that. In the same way here, regulations, though it is introduced, the players in the private markets still misutilize that, and they have complaints on this, and many farmers have complained on this. That is, the private market people, they're exploiting the rules and regulations. Next is fear of entry of multinational companies, because, as I said, with the result of LPG, that is the liberalization, privatization, and globalization in 1991, many MNCs have stepped into our nation, where big firms with the high technologies and with the strong financial aid, they came up and they started competing with the domestic companies. And this have led for the better prices actually for the farmers, because farmers there benefited. They started purchasing this with the competition. They started paying more money, and they started booking the farmers in advance. which is called as in financial terms, which we call it as derivatives. Derivatives, where you will get into the contract with the farmers in case of commodity market. You just in advance you will book the farmers for the products what you required for your factory or manufacturing, then you settle down. So they will be ready to pay the price. So here the benefitor is the farmer. So better product range for the customers. Even the customers are also happy because they are also benefited. Why? Because many lot of companies got into the market and they came up with lot of options. Now you can see that earlier, 10 years 15 years back, if you have seen the supermarkets, the choice of the products were very less. Now, if you get into the market, any supermarket for that example, for that matter, you can see lots and lots of companies have come up with FMCG products. So many FMCG products are available, and range of products are much for the consumer. So today, consumer is enjoying all those things with the competitive prices. You will compare the prices which is available for example, if you enter it into supermarket, one section will be completely related to the shampoo, completely related to one food material, completely related to one particular soap, or completely related to one particular deodorant. You can see that different companies are there. With that, you have price range also. You compare that and take whichever you want. So competition with competitive prices, you have got range of products. So both beneficial for farmers and consumers, which again multinational companies, if they go up with this policies, agri policies, they have come up with lot of technologies, finance, and resulted with better benefited for our country. Next, in intellectual property rights, I hope all of you know this, which is called as IPR. In the third session also, we deal with this related to trade related policies. IPR is nothing but when you will get the property rights whenever you have done something innovative related to that product. It should not be imitative, or it should not be something which is copied from others' innovation. In that case, you will not get any intellectual property rights, IPR. Once if you been tested or proved that your product or services is innovative, you may receive the rights in form of many types of IPRs. And this is like uh, came up with the implementation of agribusiness policies, that intellectual property rights also came into picture. That is one of the again conflict for the implementation of agribusiness policy. So this is related to policies. Next, constraints in agribusiness sector in India. Constraints means what? Limitations. What are the limitations when agribusiness came into India? What limitations it faced? First is diversity of Indian agriculture, because in one sector they grow rice, in one sector they grow wheat, in one state they grow something. So we have varieties, diversification of the agricultural process happening in India, based on the culture, based on the climatic condition, based on the availability of the land. You go for diversified. So in that case, diversification, if it is too much, agri business policies also may conflict with each other, and maybe a limitation for agribusiness sector, because you can't target and trace the right track. Second is non-suitability of produce for processing. Sometimes, without knowingly, you take the wrong product for wrong processing. So since it we are with the diversification, we have a number of things, and we go get into different processing. So that is not, which may not be suitable for that particular product. So that is again a constraint. Land loss and small size of farms, because India, as I said, diversification in not only with the agricultural produce, but also with the land size and land laws as well, because one state will have different laws, land laws, and another state will have different land laws. For example, Karnataka, for Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and even north part of India, each state will have different laws, and the size also differs. So that is also, the entire land will be fragmented, and you cannot go with the policies, agricultural business policy, agribusiness policies for each sector again. So that is also limitation. The cost is very high of procurement or processing, because uh, the tracing of the things is difficult. The transaction cost will be also high. Tax and overhead cost will be high. Though the agricultural sector is, exemption from the tax, the income which is earned from the agricultural sector is exemption from tax. Still, you have to pay taxes and overhead cost in the processing. During the agri business, it is only exempted in agricultural field, not agri business. Agri business is something where you are fetching the benefit or profit, where you are supposed to pay the tax and overhead cost. For example, if you are exporting, export tariffs you should pay, that is international taxation. So there also the cost, the limitation is towards taxes and overhead cost is also there. That is why many times, people think of this tax overhead cost and then they stop themselves of getting into agribusiness sector. That is again a limitation. Next, high cost of distribution and retailing, because bringing from one point of location of the state to another point of the state where the demand is there, bringing from one point to another point requires a high cost of distribution and retailing. And widespread sickness is nothing but many of the organizations are not making profit, they are ending up with as a sick units, and they are closing, they are liquidating. So that is also one of the constraint for agribusiness sector in India. Moving on to that, looking to the all these constraints, government has supported food processing and agribusiness sector with lot of their schemes. Here I have listed the scheme. You please go through in your material through these schemes. Each and every schemes has its own objectives. How does it is applied, where it is applied. I can't go with each and everything because it is too much, too lengthy, and you can go when you're talking. So overall, if any question is asked related to what are the support which is given by government, you please first of all be aware of all these uh, the units, different units which has been come up, different committees, corporations, boards which have come up to support the agribusiness. Make sure that you are remembering the main points, and inside you just go with the explanation part. Okay, don't write the headings and keep it and then come back. Please write the explanation as well. Moving on to the unit 7, marketing and pricing policies. So first unit, that is the unit 6 in this block, we were talking about policies related to agribusiness. Now we are moving to pricing policies, marketing and pricing policies. Agriculture prices, it goes differs from one area to other, from one location to other, from one product to other, from one distribution area to another one. Why? Because it is influenced by many other factors like resource allocation, income distribution, capital formation. So it is influenced. Prices, again, once the prices has been set, this in turn again influence what is the resource allocation, what is the income distributed. Because the price, if it is high, the income of the farmer will be low. If the price of agricultural price, selling price, if it is high, income of the farmer will be high. So in this vice versa, you can just see that income distribution is affected. It is influenced by agricultural prices and capital formation as well. So this indirectly will have an impact on economy of any country. So agricultural marketing, on the other hand, will take up this agricultural produce to doorsteps of consumers. There is again a challenging that if you are taking this agricultural produce or products to the doorsteps of consumer, you have to make sure that the price should not be high, because if it is the price is high, the consumers feel that why not I will buy from APMC directly, because I'm getting very low price for the product, same product what I'm buying through online, or ordering for the doorstep delivery. So if that is the case, they will switch over. So the agricultural marketing should take care of that also. That is why it is again a crucial one for agricultural marketing to maintain less cost, possible less cost, and give the maximum share for the farmers, and a reasonable and affordable price for the consumers. So this is again a challenging one. Role of agricultural prices in Indian economy is based on resource allocation, as I have already discussed in the prices, agricultural prices, income distribution, capital formation. All these things have been discussed in the above one. Moving on to role of agricultural marketing. So here two things we are discussing. One is the role of agricultural price in the Indian economy and role of agricultural marketing. Agricultural price, agricultural marketing. Two things we are discussing here. We note that point. Role of agricultural marketing goes with evolution of agricultural markets. So what type of markets we have? We can see that in the state level we have APMCs. That's it. So if all the products which is produced through agriculture, you will take to APMCs, and there from there you will move on to retail wholesalers, then wholesaler to retailer. This is how it goes. So evolution of agricultural marketing came with the agricultural marketing. Market manipulation also happened simultaneously. See, you can just imagine, more the market, more the manipulation, and with more manipulation, inefficiency of the markets will result. So this is what was the result of agricultural marketing. How this agricultural price and marketing policies emerged, the evolution, how did it take place? So by the setting up of CACP, we have discussed already this Commission on Agricultural Cost and Price by the Government of India. They have set up the agricultural price, and the institution mechanism is also there to check up with the what type of agricultural crop is going in which state, and what is the demand, what is the supply of that. Based on that, they will fix the prices, which is again headed by Commission on Agricultural Cost and Price, and they will go with the MSP, that is minimum support price. Even the farmers can know this, that is the minimum support price, how much they have to charge minimum support price, MSP, and below that they should not sell, which is very very dangerous for them, and they will face the loss. So minimum support price is set up to safeguard the farmers, and they can at least they can stay with the break even. That's the intention of these policies. Then agricultural marketing policies have come up with APMCs, as I have discussed. What is the full form of APMC? Agricultural Produce Market Committees, where they will have their own committees. They will just find out what is the agricultural market is playing a role, and who are the what they act as a watchdog. Actually, they go with the state marketing departments. They'll have linkage with the central market departments also. They'll be tracing what is the demand, what is the supply, and how the prices will be maintained. So with the APMC, agricultural marketing policies go hand in hand. Impact of agricultural price and marketing policies, that is directly relationship between your MSP and open market. Here, many pricing policies, whether it is agricultural policy or marketing policies, Government of India has come up with a lot of agencies. They interfere in this, and why they do this? The only intention is to benefit the farmers. So that is how they are doing with one of the major step what was taken to benefit the farmer again is the farm law. Farm law, I hope all of you know this. Recently, there have been a lot of news in the media, right? Not very,
Yes,
very.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Anybody, if you can sum up these laws, if anybody quickly.
Law has been drawn now.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I know it is withdrawn. Now, what was the proposal is all about? Anybody? Now it's been withdrawn, and because of pros and cons, and many you know the committees or many trust, many societies came up for the help, and many things happened. But
Yes.
what was the laws was talking about? What was the proposal? Three farms, which was introduced in September 2020. The first is Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce, that is Promotion Facility Act 2020, where the main objective was to create a national framework for contract frame farming. Contract farming, as we have discussed in the morning, so many institutions, many corporates will come up to have a contract with the farming, and it is agreement is formed between the farmer and the buyer prior the production, prior getting the production in the hand. It would be the buyer, the farmer will be benefited with the price of the product. So this was contract farming. Okay, that policy talks about in advance you will getting into the agreement between the farmer and buyer. The farmer will be getting in with the agreement with the buyer who will be buying his product which is produced after harvesting. Okay, in advance it is set with the pricing. That is one thing. Second is farmers, that is empowerment and protection related to empowerment. And first policy was related to promotion and facilitation. Second is empowerment and protection. Third is the Essential Commodities Amendment Act. Okay, the empowerment and protection agreement was related to the permit intra and interstate trade of market produce, that is beyond the physical premises. Now it is only limited to APMC, as I've already told, marketing, agribusiness marketing policies. Okay, beyond APMC markets, you could have taken the products. Intra or interstate trade would have been permitted, notified under particular state APMC acts. Again, you're keeping in track with the APMC acts and taking the product beyond APMC markets. This was one of the policy proposed. Third is essential commodities, that is 2020. Again, amendment has been made to ensure the delivery of certain commodities or products, the supply of which is obstructed owing to hoarding and block marketing or block marketing. So you can see that many times suddenly the prices will hike of many materials that may be artificially created or maybe naturally. Artificially, if it is created, then that will create inflation, artificial inflation, and people will suffer. Normal life of the people will be affected. So, in order to curb that, in order to stop that, if it is naturally done, then we can't help it. We can take measures to reduce that. But if it is intentionally happening, that somebody should stop that, right? So for that, they have introduced this as a Essential Commodities Act. But this didn't apply now; it was been withdrawn. So, but this has been included in your syllabus, so that's why I just wanted to mark up. Okay. Improving the agricultural marketing infrastructure. How do you do? With the two ways, that is emphasizing on regulation and focusing on the competition. That's it. Marketing infrastructure, just what is the regulation, based on that you improvise, and what is the competition level, based on that also you should go up with agricultural marketing infrastructure. IT, information in marketing, that is information sector in marketing, what does it play a role? We have different efforts taken by government that to provide the information for the farmers, how it will be reached. Nowadays, everything is online service. You can just have a click and know what are the services are available provided by the government. They have different apps, they can use that apps and they can just go on. Or even in the media, they have special programs on this. They are spreading the awareness for the needies, whoever will be benefited out of it. So one among that is Agricultural Marketing Information Network, that is AgmarNet, what we call it as in short, that is online service and displays the prices of different agricultural commodities. Prices of agricultural prices commodities will be displayed in both spot and future markets. What is the spot and future markets? Anybody?
No idea.
Okay. So spot and future markets are the part of commodity. This one's stock markets. Okay. If you open anybody, if you are invested in stock markets, you can see that spot price, future price, this will be displayed. Even if you are out of your curiosity, if you take out your newspaper and check out in Hindu or anything where the prices of stock market as displayed, you can see the spot price, future price. Okay, what is the spot market and future market? Spot market is nothing but whenever the delivery and the purchase, the selling and the purchasing happening on spot, and everything clearing off on spot, it is called a spot market. Future market is, as I said, one of the farm laws talks about you are making an agreement in advance to take the delivery in future and make the payment in future. That is called as future markets. So prices of both on spot market and future markets, if you want to get into agreement for future market, that price is also available through agricultural marketing information network. So government has come up with these type of things also. Many of the farmers not aware of this because they are not aware of many technologies which are available. So that should be taken care. And that is how the role of information is working, giving a right price for both spot as well as future markets. I hope it is clear now. Spot and future markets. Any clarity you need?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay. One more phenomenon is there, that is cobweb, which is referred to as whenever farmer, for example, if I say, when farmer notices that the price of the cotton what he has produced or his neighbor has produced goes high and the demand for that particular product is high, next time he will be focusing more on that, and he will allocate his area of production for that itself next year, next production. This is called as cobweb phenomena. Okay, web, he will be inside his web only. So note that is will be like noticing the prices of particular agricultural commodity. He will notice the agricultural commodity price which is displaying, and he will think that okay, this year the cotton or the coffee or the paddy has got more price. Next year I will just only grow this. He will go through with this decision. That is called as cobweb phenomena. I hope it is clear. I hope it is clear, cobweb. And
Yes,
this
yes.
may create many problems because at the future you I mean now at the present you go with the process, and you think that okay, this year it is having more demand, and future you decide it in advance. But in future, many other things, if it is influenced and that may not happen, then you will be under risk. So that is the problematic point of cobweb phenomenon. Next is reforms for improving agricultural marketing and pricing policies. Two things are there. One is trade-off between short and long-term interest. So you should go with the combination of exchanges happening in both, trade-off happening in both short-term as well as long-term. Short-term also you have to manage, long-term objectives also you need to manage. In the first session we have discussed about short-term and long-term objectives of diversification. How does the trade can be increased? Okay, in the same way, that is one of the reforms. Second is focus of agricultural marketing policies. So you need to first of all give more attention and more emphasis should be given for promoting your competition. And how do you go with the structure of regulation? You have to go with the regulation. As per that, you have to frame your structure to get into the market. So that is all about Unit 7. Now let us move to the Unit 8, that is trade related policies, where we are talking about between the countries, not within the nation, it is between different nations. Okay, there, whenever we talk, because trade is nothing but like not only between the states, it is between nations also. So international trade we are talking about here. With that, I mean a few things we have to address. That is, here I have listed three things. That is absolute advantage, price of comparative advantage, protectionist tendencies. These three way you are going to these threes are the base for any trade between countries. What is this absolute advantage? This is nothing but whenever you feel that one country is very good in producing one particular product and the other country is very good in the other thing. Here I have given an example. Viewer has the skill of making cloth, while farmer knows the art of growing food. In this case, what happens? The viewer, he is having more skill in making cloth, so he will produce more cloth. And the farmer, he is having more skill in growing food, he will produce more food. And these people will exchange and they will clear their own demand. So this is called as the absolute advantage. You are taking the advantage of what you are good in. That is the principle of comparative advantage also. It is called as comparative advantage. In whichever you are very good, that you are going to take off. Okay, that gives the birth for next principle of comparative advantage. That is resources of one country. For example, in our country like south, a few states are called as the rice bowl of the country, where you produce more rice, and in the north somewhere you produce more paddy, wheat you will produce. And each state is having a different advantage. So one is producing one product, the other one is very good in producing the other product. So they will exchange. They will meet the different needs of the state. In the same way, they will meet the different needs of the country as well. That is called as principle of comparative advantage. The last is protectionist tendencies, where the policies have been framed to protect the particular sectors. Whenever more foreign competition is there, you need to protect the interest of the exporters, protect the interest of the consumers, protect the interest of producers, and economy as a whole. So, in that case, protectionist tendency policies are related to protectionist tendencies will be there. So, this is the base for trade between any countries. And the policies what we have for that is UNCTAD, GATT, and WTO. You have to let me remind you, all of you. Here I'm going, as you all know, glimpse, but you have to get into deeper of each and everything, especially this UNCTAD, GATT, WTO. You have to see when it has been formed, what are the functions, objectives of it, and what are the benefits, how it is related with each other, and what are the principles. Everything, please go through it. I cannot go through. I am just giving you the glance why it is taken up and what is the significance of it. Okay. Hope you will go through that. Yes. I think if you have muted. Okay, hoping that let's move on. So UNCTAD established, in order to deal with the issues related to trade and development, anything related to trade and development, United Nation conference was been set up, and the members of this UNCTAD will take the advantage of whatever the benefits or assistance given by the UNCTAD. And GATT is nothing but the agreement which is done during Bretton Woods system, that is the World War II. When it happened, many countries went for recession, and during that period, the entire United Nation wants to bring up the countries which have been eaten by war. The economic crisis was huge. In that case, the trade was very less. It was under recession. So, in order to bring back the trade, general agreement on tariffs and trade, that is GATT, was set up by the member countries. And these member countries met at Bretton Woods system in USA and set up an international bank for reconstruction and development, that is IBRD for long-term lending, and IMF, that is International Monetary Fund, for medium lending. Why this lending came up? As I said, take this as a story. Like as I said, after World War, many countries have been hit by war, and they have spent a lot of money on the defense. So they were facing recession. Trade was very less, amount was very less, finance they were very low. In order to come back, these particular regulatory frameworks, that is for the example of hunted or WTO, they come up with these policies helping the war hidden countries. That is why they came up with these two institutions which are called as twin institutions, that is IBRD and IMF. These twin institutions separately, like IBRD gave the loans or financial aid for long term lending, and IMF gave for medium term. So these regulatory things or the institutions, international institutions, help the war-hidden countries and try to bring up the trade back. So with the GATT, that is called as agreement GATT. When this agreement, they thought that this agreement doesn't work for a long time. We need something which has to be set up as a institutions. So the GATT was an agreement, but they wanted to come up with the institutions. So as a result, they came up with IBRD, IMF, and WTO. WTO was also the product of after effect of GATT. So it is World Trade Organization. They have come up with organization. See the difference? GATT is an agreement, that is general agreement on tariffs and trade. WTO, that is World Trade Organization, came up. So instead of agreement, agreement was replaced with organization through Dunkel draft text. So Arthur Dunkel, he was the director of GATT. So what he thought is, instead of agreement, let us come up with organization. So this was been later called as WTO. So GATT was replaced with WTO. And this GATT was going up with the Uruguay round. Many rounds were there. Uruguay round was the last round. Eight after that, WTO came up. So in that, many things were being discussed, out of which trips, that is trade related intellectual property rights, trims, that is trade related investment measures, GATS, that is general agreement on trade in service. GATS is different, GAT is different. So be careful about that. Anti-dumping measures, ADM, also been introduced in Uruguay round. So these were the efforts taken by the UN to, in order to, come back with the proper level of trading with the help of international institutions. Next is obligation of countries under WTO. Once the WTO set up, now it is clear, I hope, for everybody, the GATT, that is the agreement, was replaced with the organization which is called as World Trade Organization. And each member who was part of WTO were having obligation to do certain things under this agreement. That is market access. That is, they can have a market access once they become the member of this WTO. Aggregate measure of support, that is AMS, subsidies they could get. Export subsidies also they could get. And sanitary phytosanitary standards, SPS, and technical barriers, that is TBT, would be supported. Any technical barriers, anything. And trade related intellectual property rights, that is TRIPS, was also being taken care. Once if you have been the member of this WTO agreement, then you would access all these things. So you are benefiting with all these things. International movement of agricultural products was also one of the things where, agricultural products were started moving from one country to another, because each country is benefited with its own climate, with its own soil type, with its own suitable any working environment. No, they started taking advantage, as we have discussed with comparative advantage. So they started taking a comparative advantage, and they started producing different products, and they started exporting and importing these things. That's where international movement of agricultural products started. So they produce this commodities in a greater quantity, and they keep it for their requirement, and they will sell the rest of the thing. This was the actually process, but in reality now what we discussed in the first session, they will first send outside whatever is there, then whatever left out, that they will give here. That's why we can see that our own products have higher prices, because the supply is less for us, though the demand is high. So prices are high, we are paying high, though the product is produced in our country. This is the result. So high cost is there, due to surplus in agricultural trade. That is what I am have listed here. Changing composition of agricultural export, agricultural trade performance. Because of all this, the cost was higher. So this is related to international movement. Trade policy of India came up with different schemes to encourage exports. Here you can see I have listed few: special agricultural and village industry scheme, agricultural industry intensive incentive script, EPCG, export promotion capital goods, single window where it would support for the exporters for perishable agricultural products, and marine sector were also been introduced for the transporting of marine goods. Incentives is the last part of, which we wanted to touch upon. Incentives is nothing but the government has come up with a lot of incentives. Incentives was announced through the policies, which not only made the agribusiness people feel strong, but also helped in export also. So foreign trade policy 1520, still the same policy is existent. It is not. It was extended up to 2022, but now again it has been extended. They have not yet come with a new foreign trade policy. The same 1520 policy is still now existing, because they have postponed this for 6 months, and again they have postponed again with the 6 months due to COVID. They said that the same foreign trade policies will be extended till 2023, and it is now currently is going on. So this trade policy have major highlights like simplification and merger of reward schemes, MEIS and SEIS. So you are there for, how you can go with the mergers of the uh, organizations within and between the countries. Boost to make in India, many products whichever can be produced in India, they can produce in order to curb the import. If the products have been imported continuously from other countries, just think we will be paying more, and we will be importing them by paying tariffs as well. And when we are importing, most of the products produced inside the country will have less demand. So in order to stop these type of things, they came up with a new policy, especially related to foreign trade policy of 1520 to boost Make in India. That was the result in 2014 to 16. We got Make in India, Startup India, Digital India. All these things are the product of foreign trade policy. So they came up with this because to encourage the products which has been produced in India so that we can produce more and export more rather than importing. Okay. And trade facilitation and ease of doing business will also been taken care, because immediately if you want to start a business, you can apply online. Everything goes online easily. You can start a business. That was the facility being given. That is the incentive with the policy. New initiatives for export oriented units. So whoever are involved in export oriented units, the new initiative or benefits being given to them. And electronic hardware technology parks and software technology parks will also be highlighted. So these are the incentives which have been announced with the policies, trade related policies. So this is all about the block 2. I hope it is clear to all of you. If any queries you have, uh, you're welcome. I hope it is clear, all of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There, I'll stop.